Okay, round two. I now am connected to Wi-Fi, so hopefully this one will work. I just deleted if you were watching the previous one. So once again, I'm in White Plains, New York. I'm here speaking for Young Israel of White Plains this weekend. And I wanted to spend a few minutes speaking about a powerful concept that is brought up in this week's Torah portion of Tazria, and it has to do with the power of speech. Jessica, hello. And, speech is actually our defining characteristic as a human being. It says that it's not that we have the ability to think that's what defines our humanity, but rather the ability to speak, to share those innermost thoughts with another person. So we're referred to as a medaber, a speaker. And there's this idea that speech creates reality. I feel like I've said this in a separate video. Maybe I have, but we're going to repeat it again. And one of the ideas with this is abracadabra, that famous word the magician says before seemingly creating something from nothing, is Aramaic in its origin for abarek hedibur. I create when I speak. So when I say something, I bring it into reality. And every time I open my mouth, I have the power to choose what kind of reality I want to be creating. And we actually see going into Passover very soon that Pharaoh, Paro, the one who enslaved us and made our lives so miserable, his name is the letters that can be permutated to spell pera, the evil mouth. The word for mouth in and of itself, peh, is numerically equivalent to 85, which equals the words ahava and chesed, love and kindness, which is our reminder, if we're going to open our mouth, use it for love and kindness. And if it's not loving and kind, keep your mouth closed. It doesn't need to be said. So in this week's Torah portion, it speaks about what's referred to, generally translated as gossip, but lashon hara, which is, this also, again, that idea of rav, evil, but like negative, toxic, evil speech about someone else. But what's really fascinating is there's a commentary in the Talmud that says that when somebody speaks negatively about another person, that it kills three people: the speaker, the listener, and the person who is spoken about. And it's really interesting because then the question's asked, why the person who's spoken about? Generally, if somebody's going to say something about somebody else, they're not saying it to that person's face, right? That's the whole point of gossip. It's being said behind, not directly to that person. And it would be clear that the person speaking obviously has accountability and responsibility for gossiping, for saying something negative, for saying something not kind about another person, absolutely responsible. And the person listening as well, because they're choosing to hear this information and to be part of this, conversation, either actively or passively, just by being there and not saying, I'm sorry, I don't want to hear that. Please don't talk about that person in front of me. But then there's the third, the person who's being spoken about. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe actually explains that the reason it says the person who's being spoken about is because our speech creates reality. So when we're saying something about another person, and generally when we're bad-mouthing somebody, there's some truth to it, right? There's some part of it that might be accurate. And we're highlighting this person's negative qualities and their weaknesses, which we all have in our own ways. But by just saying it, we're bringing it more to reality. We're heightening it. We're letting it, kind of concretize in this world. And by simply bringing that out of the person, even though they're not there, and even though they don't know it, and even though they're not hearing it, it's creating reality about that person. And that's why it says that the third person involved who's killed by this negative speech. And the other time, actually, the idea of, killing is used as it says when we embarrass a person. That embarrassing somebody is likened to murder. That, when we say something negative and we give it reality And in today's day and age, that can give it permanence, right? When anybody can watch that viral video, when anybody can read that Facebook post, when anybody can see that tweet, right? And we know that saying something is no longer like, oh, whatever, I didn't mean it, I take it back, forget I ever said it. You can't forget you ever said it. You posted it and the world saw it. You said something negative about this person, true or not true, and everyone saw it. And that creates reality. So we have incredible power when we speak. And again, because the mouth is this conduit for loving kindness, every time we open it, it should be a vehicle for that loving kindness to show our humanity and to allow us to bond and connect to another person. And if what we have to say is not loving and kind, it should definitely not be stated, because when it is, everybody who both hears it directly and who it's about and who hears it indirectly is actually hurt by that speech. So as we go into Shabbos, it should be a peaceful one and a good one. And that's why I always end with saying something like a good Shabbos, because we always want to be saying positive things and giving out those positive messages and blessings in all different ways. So it should all be good and peaceful and loving and kind. And also it's Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the new month, of the month of Nisan. And Nisan, the root of it is nes, which is a miracle. So we should just be blessed with a miraculous reality, and we should help create that miraculous reality with positive speech. So good Shabbos, and we'll be in touch next week. And hello, Tamar and Susan and Rachel. Good Shabbos from White Plains, New York.